Where was I? This live is about spiritual recruitment. Give me 1 second here. I gotta start on my own live. So I have two messages for this live, and they are both not directly connected, but they're important. So I'm gonna start with the first message that I have here, which is about the sacredness of children. And it's something that I wanted to talk about from before. It's come up, and then I put it down, and it's been a back and forth thing in my mind. And tonight, sometimes I realize when that happens, it is literally because maybe they're saving the message for a certain day. Because sometimes I have the message, but I have the message too early. And that happens to me often. And then I realize by the time I give the message, it is the appropriate time to give the message. So, let us proceed. So, my message in regards to children as ancestors, which is not a way that we think about children. We like to treat children as if children are our personal property, and we treat children as if children are a pawn. Some people have children, decide to have children to get money, child support, attach themselves to someone. Some people treat children, and then when they get the children, the way they care for the children, the way they take care of the children is indicative of a lack of respect for the human life that they are in charge of. They have kids and they put everything else in front of the children as if the children are just like throwaways. So they'll have a kid with someone they just met one day. No thought, no plans, nothing, no infrastructure, nothing put into place. Now, sometimes that happens where God might intend for you to have a child that way. But then God also demands that you make a way for the child as well. Kids are sacred. We must think of children as ancestors because we are souls. And this body we're in is just a vehicle. It's just a vessel by which we can walk around in this physical plane. This is an airport. You're in it. You can invite other entities into it. And there was a time I just read about this Bible verse where it said, Jesus asked a demon, what is its name? And it said Legion, for we are many. I remember the first time I heard that quote, I laughed. I thought it was funny, but it's very accurate. This is just an airport. Think about the airport, how many terminals there are, in and out, in and out. And then you could bind some with you. You can bind some to stay in here with you so that they don't leave, so they travel the rest of their life with you. So think about when you bring a soul here, the vessel that the soul is in is just a vessel. It's an airport. Children are not your toys. Children are sacred. They are sacred. So we have to learn to treat children and the ability to bear children, because I notice that there are people, and we all know them, who talk about people who have trouble conceiving in a shameful way. But when they conceive, it's with negligence. Children are sacred. We are to treat the process of having children and children with respect. You can bring kids here, and this could be a grandparent. This could be a great grandparent. This can be somebody else, because as souls, we travel in packs. We travel in groups. So you might come here and not have much family. Now let me explain it. You can end up being born into a massive family, and only one person in that family is your soul family. It just depends on your unique situation. Just because you're birthed into a place does not mean that this is your actual family. Having children, sometimes the universe needs to pop you in somewhere. They just need to get you somewhere, and they will do the rest. They will navigate you through. You'll see a lot of times people become, Barack Obama was one, people become a president, people become something. They were destined to have some influence to get somewhere, but where they pop them is not where they were meant to be. They may pop you in somewhere in Japan and you're meant to be in the US. So when we have children, you have to look at them, even though you don't know whether or not they are going to be your actual ancestor, or they are in your soul tribe, or they are in your family. Whether or not you know if they are or not doesn't quite matter, because we have to treat them with a certain ounce of respect, a certain amount of respect. You literally destroy a child's purpose in the world by how you treat them. So imagine if, let's say, Barack Obama got popped into a womb and they made no sort of preparations for him in regards to education. They did not care about sending him for higher education. They didn't care about, his basic needs. Would he be able to fulfill his life purpose, or would it make it triply difficult? Exactly. If he ended up on the streets and homeless and all this other stuff, what would happen to him? It would destroy his purpose. People purposely destroy children's purposes for whatever crazy, selfish, ridiculous reasons that they have. So sometimes kids' purposes are destroyed just because the person doesn't want to see them reach that, or maybe somebody read into it, or something or the other. Maybe they wanted it for themselves. They want to destiny swap these kids. Who knows? But how you treat a kid could build them or destroy their purpose. Sometimes a kid's purpose is destroyed through too much discipline, and sometimes not enough. Being too heavy-handed with them, or sometimes not enough. Beating down on them, or not even adjusting at all. As a parent, it is your job to look at what kind of things may stand in your kids' way, what kind of things they have to work through. One of the things that kids who don't have good parents never had was they didn't have anyone to pay enough attention to say, hey, you're having issues in this and this and this department. And because you're having these issues, we got to work through them. Every kid is unique. Every kid is different. You might have a kid that's lazy. Then you have a kid that's too rude. Then you have a kid that doesn't know their place. Then you have all kinds of issues. And these issues are going to affect this child moving forward and moving around into the world. There are people here that want the message, but they don't want to come on the YouTube because they tried to disable the channel, so they don't want anyone to see the lives. They're not scrying. They're not scrying. If they come in here, it's going to be hell to pay. God's tired of you people. I'm telling you straight up. God's tired of you guys. There is no more chances, no more warnings, nothing. There's timers on this stuff. Anyway, in the beginning, children are sent as your help. The children are your helpers. So in the beginning, when they come to you, it's like you have to take care of them. But in the end, they're the ones that take care of you. And we know that. There are a lot of old people sitting in government nursing homes or wherever because nobody cares about them and they have kids. Kids can only help when they become adults. They can only help to the capacity that they can feel love, that they can feel compassion. You look at strong families, families that stick together. It's not because there's not inner grumbling and bickering and whatever in those. Of course there is that in those families. That's how it is to be around families. Like, everybody's gonna irritate each other every once in a while, but they show up when they have to, and they're loyal to each other, and that is because of the love that is there. These are loving homes. These are units. The children that are born in situations where somebody said, I want to have a child, and then they go forth and they look for the college plans, and they do this and they do that, and they try to make plans, and they don't have kids in irresponsible situations. They don't have children and putting the children in harm's way, whether spiritually or physically. They don't have children in the middle of spiritual battles. They don't have children in the middle of crime. They don't have children in spaces where, there might be gun violence. There might be police raids. It's dangerous. You got to think before you do these things, because remember, the children are a blessing. What do we mean by the children are a blessing? Imagine if your child makes it to be a president. That's a blessing, right? So why would you try to put a child in a situation that's crazy? Children can only give to the capacity that they can love, and to the capacity that they are loved, People who involve children in things like gang stalking and spiritual crimes curse themselves, and they curse the kids. And I'm not just talking about a little curse either. I'm talking about they curse the kids and they curse themselves, because what did God say? Children are off limits. Children are off limits. Souls travel as a pack. They travel as a unit. So we come here to guard each other. When we have children, what do? You have a child and you have to now worry about where the dangers are. All you do is worry about where the dangers are. All you do is you analyze their friends. You analyze the school they're going to go to. You analyze what they're up to. You put your eyes in everything they're doing. You talk to them. You get close to them. You discipline them. You tell them when they're wrong, no matter how they want to take it. You let them know what is okay, what is not okay. You put your foot down when it's appropriate. There's a North American belief that if you discipline your children, if you, oh, it's bullying, oh, it's this and that. We don't want them to turn into crackheads now. We don't want them to turn into criminals. No, we want them to be productive members of society. So we make sure that they understand authority and rule. They understand their place. We're not their little friend. We're friendly, but when it comes down to the priorities, it's a non-negotiable. Whoever doesn't like it can stick their nose somewhere else. That's how it goes as a parent when you're parenting in North America, because people like to talk a lot, but their kids are victims of their actions, of their negligence, of their neglect. Children are sacred and they're off limits. They must be dealt with the utmost care. The utmost care. When I say kids come here to guard each other, when I say we are given children and we're here to guard them, and we travel as souls, and some come first and they wait till a soul is a certain age or a certain maturity level and then they get a child. This is what I mean. I strongly believe that there are people who, like, for example, you'll see where a grandparent is raising a child, or an uncle or an older sibling or something, and I strongly believe that they are the soul family that was supposed to guard that child. Perhaps somebody that you'll see people adopting kids that never had kids of their own. And even though they're not physically related, they may not be the same race, but the compassion that they have in their heart, they really take care of that child. Taking care of a kid is a lot more than sending a kid to private school and giving a kid nice things. It's way deeper than that. And as a matter of fact, none of that is even required. You can literally have a child that doesn't have much toys and makes mud cakes and has just love and affection every day, that is warm and has protection and has someone that takes care of them. I remember when I was taking care of my kids, people would say things like, well, you never go anywhere and stuff like that. And it's like, that's because that's the house I grew up in. So that is my example of having a kid. Like, people were always home. There was always someone home. There was always food on the table. You know, raising me was the priority of their life. So that's what I emulate. And I'm not saying everybody's life has to be like that. People have different ways of being, but I'm saying that the priority should be raising your children in a way that enables them to be healthy, responsible adults. Because it's by what we do when they're young. What we do when they're young results in how they grow up. These kids have sacred missions. And whether we have sacred missions, they have missions in life, things that they're meant to come here and accomplish. And whether or not we remember it or not, it doesn't matter. We will be walked onto that path whether we like it or not. So we are protectors of each other. At some point, your children are going to be the ones that have to protect you. They are your helpers. Even when God gives you a spouse, because yes, the universe picks a spouse for you, and that is the most ideal situation. Some of us call those twin flames, some of us call those soulmates, but it's the universe that makes the choice. And when the universe makes the choice, they pair you appropriately according to your mission in life, according to what you have to do. So they go ahead and pick the person who has what it takes for your mission. Now, sometimes we come here and we like to look at a lot of things that don't matter. So we'll look at race, height, weight, all kinds of things. And this has nothing to do with the soul mission. The soul mission is about the soul. What can the soul accomplish? What is the soul capable of? So this is more important than the other things that we are looking at on the outside. When people come in soul families, they are alike. They have similar temperaments. And what do I mean by similar temperaments? I mean, sometimes you might, well, not sometimes, I believe it to be true that if somebody's spiritually gifted, they're coming from a spiritually gifted or a spiritually advanced soul tribe. They have to, because it is a disadvantage to put someone in that kind of family and they're not spiritually gifted as well. It is putting them in a dangerous situation, because just by being in that family, they are probably going to be under attack. So we are usually alike when we come as packs, and we have similar temperaments and tastes. We usually are just, and when they call you the black sheep, it's usually because you're one of those that's not really a part of that soul tribe, but they just had to pop you in. Now, the reality is some of us are spiritual beings. We're not necessarily like from human families, if you will. And again, in North America is a mental asylum. They shame people for stuff like that. Somebody can't control that. Somebody can't control that they are not really a part of like a human soul pack. So they're not going to be a lot of people with them. But what God does do is God does take care of us. Now, when you come here in that condition, you're a spiritual being, you are more likely to only have one or two family members that you can get along with, that you cleave to, that take you in. One or two that you have a genuine connection to. And chances are your soul tribe is coming later. And you will meet your destiny helpers. You will meet other people that you can just recognize right away, like this person is what I am. And when you meet people like that, you're meant to meet them. We do not meet anyone by accident. You're meant to meet them. You guys are meant to close out your cycles that you're in, neatly or not neatly, because let me tell you what I have learned about spirits. They just get it done. Spirits happen to just get things done. It might not be smooth. It might not be a safe landing. It could be a crash, but they'll get it done. The purpose is just to get it done. And when we're in this seat and we got to do things for them, that's how we got to get it done too. We just got to get it done. The amount of things that I've gotten done, and if I had to describe it like a human situation, it's like with duct tape and rope, and I put some bricks and some chairs in front of it so it doesn't fall down. And it's like, listen, we got it done. That's it. They want it done. So sometimes you come here and Spirit will say, we just need to get you somewhere, and then we'll get you somewhere else. And you know what? This situation might be messy, but we need to get you out of it. And sometimes we stand in our own way, and Spirit's like, well, we're going to figure it out. You know, we're going to figure it out, but you're going to get out of there by this time. That's their job. Spirits will pace the floor to figure that out. That's their job. They got to get it done. When you have children, you are meant to sacrifice the pleasures of life. You are meant to sacrifice the pleasures of your life for the proper raising of children. When I had my second daughter, I literally remember repeating over and over, I said, I will be the sacrificial lamb and I will make sure that they are raised properly. And I was saying it the first time, the second time, and it didn't really, like, almost like it didn't soak in, but I was just saying it. No, let me take that back. It did soak in, but I just remember the last few times I said it, it was with a conviction that was very serious. And I said, and I have sacrificed a lot of relationships to make sure that my kids are safe. I have sacrificed going on trips, doing a whole bunch of things that other people my age would have jumped on, jobs that I couldn't take because of how it would affect them with their schooling, all kinds of things, just because I always felt this need in me to make sure that I did my job. And there are so many times where I see other people's kids and I see them accomplish something and I'm like, this parent's probably saying I did my job. Because this is a job, it's a sacred job, it's an important job, and it's an important role. It is an important role. When you have children, you need to be purposeful about having kids. We cannot just have them willy-nilly. They tie into our soul. So sometimes, not sometimes, often, witches, wizards, and what have you will come and try to have a kid with you just to tie into your soul family because they know what it comes with. And through that kid, they can drain you spiritually. So you might have money in your hands, but they're spiritually draining you. You got to be careful. You got to be purposeful. As soon as you have a child, it ties you. It ties you to people. It ties you to circumstances. It ties you to places. It is chaotic to just have children willy-nilly. We got to get back to these values. I don't know what about this place that they just inhabited here, this North America, that makes people forget where they came from and what their core values are. It is important to be responsible with yourself. Because as children come, they suffer these decisions that we make. During gang stalking, the amount of people that have approached me and the first thing out of their mouth is, do you want to have a kid? The amount of people, like they purposely make men and women approach you to sleep with you. They purposely go out of their way. The amount of times I've been walking and I can tell from the time the person is down the street that this person is specifically targeting me to try to have what would seem like some out of the blue conversation. And it's very calculated. So you have to understand, people target you to get someone in to be your handler, to hold you in place, to hold you down. You must understand that, and you must be careful. And that could be anyone. It could be people that you've already known for a long time. It doesn't matter. You have to be purposeful with the way that you have children. When you mismanage these soul contracts, the universe can cancel these contracts on you and all future contracts attached to you. So Let me explain this for the people who don't understand the seriousness of this. If God has ordained someone for someone else, a twin flame is not a soulmate. A twin flame is something God put together. It is a mirror of your soul. A twin flame contract. When there is anything outside of the twin flame contract, it will suffer. It will suffer. It will not survive. This is the rules. Don't get mad at me. Google it, YouTube it, TikTok it, Snapchat it. I didn't make it up. In my country, we have this thing we say, I'm not the godmother, because godmothers help name children. I didn't make it up. I'm not the godmother. I'm just the messenger. Anything outside of the twin flame contract, anything outside of it, will be burned to the ground. You cannot use children as a pawn to stain someone's life, to manipulate them, and to block them from their purpose. In a person's heart, they may or may not already know where they have to go and what they have to do. And when they are blocked through guilt and manipulation, the universe steps in to make it correct. I'm giving an example of soul contracts that are mismanaged. Putting a soul in a place it's not supposed to be, the universe is going to correct that mistake. It's going to take it back. It doesn't belong there. You must understand. These things are not these things are not personal. This is how God intends it. This is God's will. This is God's way. It's not intended to be there. When you just willy-nilly, like you don't know when you're supposed to have a kid, at what age, for whom, God blocks these things. And some of us may look at people and say they're infertile, and God's saying no, they're not supposed to have kids anywhere until they meet somebody specific. You're not infertile. We're just blocking it. Or somebody else blocks it and we allow it to be blocked because it's not supposed to happen anyway. We are not here to play judge, jury, and executioner here, like making any decision that we want. We do things, even when we have spiritual gifts, we do things with permission. And not with permission as we go in and ask, but we do things because God permits these things to be done. God says it is time. God says do it now. So this is how, when you have spiritual gifts, you're supposed to use them. You don't abuse spiritual gifts. You don't just wake up one day and decide when and where and how you do things. You must receive instruction for things. You must receive clearance for things. That's why people will say, well, how comes this and this and that and there's no karma? How can there be karma? They're just doing their job. You have spiritual gifts for spiritual purposes, not for your own profit. We don't get spiritual gifts and realize children have spiritual gifts and then use them. Use the kids' spiritual gifts for profit. These are curses. These are curses. These are layers and layers and layers of curses that people are putting on their life because they play too many games. And this is not even playing games. This is sacrificing children. This is sacrificing children when you do things like that. When kids are taken advantage of, abused, misused, mismanaged, doesn't need explanation, because we know the difference. There's a difference between healthy discipline, healthy boundaries, healthy whatever for a child, and there's a difference between literally taking out rage on kids, literally pushing it too far, putting your hands on kids. Now, I'm not saying there's some people who do physically discipline their kid, that let's take me out of it, do whatever you want. As if it's in reason, it's, whatever. This is not the point. The point is abusing kids. You damage them on a psychological level and you damage them spiritually. And when it comes time for them to heal after they've been living like that for a while, it is a nightmare. It's an uphill battle. There is so much to clear out, so difficult. These are people who are going to be victims of other people for the rest of their life because they will attract these kind of energies. They will continue to attract these energies whether they know or recognize it or not. One of the things that, life has taught me is that there's some times where you can see someone who is the aggressor, for sure, without a shadow of a doubt, who is the aggressor. But because of the inner child wounding, they continue to find themselves in situations where they're stagnated, they're being used because of a family they've never had or love they've never had, and they're feeling it for the first time, or they're feeling something like it, inclusion. And so it makes it confusing for them because they don't have what it takes to gauge what's real and what's not. Give me a second. So these people end up in situations where they are taken advantage of in every way. And doesn't matter what kind of family they end up in, it's all inappropriate. It's always inappropriate situations that's going to further take advantage of them and who they are. Children are sacred, and I've heard it said before, the Holy Spirit feels that children are off limits. And they're very serious about that. They're very serious about that. I'm very serious about that. I've seen it before of other people. I've seen it of myself. Situations where children are dropped in a certain place, and that's the place with all the protection. That's the place that raises them with the values that they're supposed to have. However they're supposed to be. It's a blessing when you find yourself in the right family. Trust me. The right family has nothing to do with money. The right family has nothing to do with social status. It has nothing to do with any of that. The right family is a family with love that's going to teach you proper values and that's going to push you to your highest potential. That is the correct family. So for those of us who didn't make it there, you must understand, you must look at yourself and say, I'm already at a position of disadvantage because I don't have the ability to judge when I'm in a healthy situation or not. And even though you think because you're like, oh, well, an unhealthy situation is where I'm being abused. No, you could be being love bombed. You could be being manipulated. You could be being used to hell and high water. You could be stagnated. You could be being withheld from your destiny because someone wants to siphon off of it. And it doesn't matter if this person claims to love you or not. A lot of the times people claim that they love you, but they don't even know what love is. People who do evil things are not capable of love, so they don't know what love is. It might be attachment of some sort, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's love. And you'll know what love is the first time you experience it, and then you'll realize you never experienced love before. And then you'll ask yourself, so what the hell was I doing before? Living life, learning lessons. Just, this is a part of it. Anyway, children are sacred and they need to be respected. And the kind of things that people do in these situations where you cannot use children to block God's path. You cannot use children to block God's path. You cannot use anything you cannot block God's path. The universe is either going to it's going to go right through. It's going to go right through. Let me read the verse that I have for tonight. Proverbs chapter 13, and the title is Contention Comes from Pride. Contention comes from pride. Let me go ahead, because you know what, sometimes I find it's like valuable when I can look for the definition of a word It just adds context to what I'm talking about. The definition of contention is heated disagreement. The captured territory was one of the main areas of contention between the two countries. An assertion, especially one maintained in argument. Contention. Contention comes from pride. So, chapter 13 says, a wise son heareth his father's instruction, but a scorner heareth not rebuke. A man shall eat good by the fruit of his mouth, but the soul of the transgressors shall eat violence. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction. The soul of the sluggard desireth, and hath nothing, but the soul of the diligent shall be made fat. Sluggard is a lazy person. A righteous man hateth lying, but a wicked man is loathsome and cometh to shame. Righteousness keepeth him that is upright in his way, but wickedness overthroweth the sinner. There is that maketh himself rich, yet hath nothing. There is that maketh himself poor, but hath great riches. The ransom of a man's life are his riches, but the poor heareth not rebuke. The light of the righteous rejoiceth, but the lamp of the wicked shall be put out. Only by pride cometh contention, but with the well-advised is wisdom. Wealth gotten by vanity shall be diminished, but he that gathereth by labor shall increase. Hope deferred maketh the heart sick, but when the desire cometh, it is a tree of life. Whoso despiseth the word shall be destroyed. Whoso despiseth the word shall be destroyed, but he that feareth the commandment shall be rewarded. The law of the wise is a fountain of life, to depart from the snares of death. God understanding giveth favor, but the way of the transgressors is hard. Every prudent man dealeth with knowledge, but a fool layeth open his folly, his foolishness. Every prudent man deals with knowledge, but a fool layeth open his foolishness. A wicked messenger falleth into mischief, but a faithful ambassador is health. Poverty and shame shall be to him that refuseth instruction, but he that regardeth reproof shall be honored. The desire accomplished is sweet to the soul, but it is abomination to fools to depart from evil. It is an abomination to fools to leave nonsense alone. He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. Evil pursueth sinners, but to the righteous good shall be repaid. A good man leaveth an inheritance to his children's children, and the wealth of the sinner is laid up for the just. Much food is in the tillage of the poor, but there is that is destroyed for want of judgment. He that spareth his rod hateth his son. He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes. You can't let them run wild. The righteous eateth to the satisfying of his soul, but the belly of the wicked shall want. There's just so many times that Spirit is going to say the same thing before they say it is done. When we have, the main part of what I want to talk about is spiritual callings. When we have spiritual callings, God will eradicate every obstacle to the calling. Now, sometimes we look at gods as smaller gods, and then there's the main God, the big God. It doesn't matter what spirit is calling you. Whatever spirit is calling you is working for the universe at the end of the day, in whatever way. And the spirits that they try to protect people from, those are the ones that come with their own independent agenda, because they don't respect God and they don't respect rule. They don't respect the rule of God. There are people here that do not respect anything. Now, I had a message that I had to impart that Spirit wanted me to say. When we say, and I've said it a couple times here, that we are in service of the crown sometimes can be viewed as a monarchy. That is the crown, and that is God the Father, God the Mother. That is our ancestors that are on the altar. So that is our crown. But the crown is also the part of you, the part of your head, the part of your vessel that connects to Spirit. It is a violation to touch the crown of someone who works for Spirit. It is a violation that is unforgivable, and it's immediate suffering for something like that. You don't come back from that, because what you're basically saying is you want to stop someone working for Spirit. If you were even given one chance not to do that, you were lucky. It is a violation to touch the crown. So they repeated that to me a couple times today. It's a violation to touch the crown. There's no coming back from stuff like that. There are some things that you gotta not do. You got some audacity to do stuff like that, to know for a fact that people work for God. Doesn't matter what you want to say in your head. Doesn't matter what you want to tell people. You want to tell people someone's demonic, use your mouth and curse your life. It's up to you. But to touch somebody that you know has a calling on their life, and they know there's a calling because they want us, people like myself, to serve these dark entities, so they know there's a calling on our life. They tell people that we are demonic. They know about the calling. They block God intentionally with their actions. And now they suffer. And now it's time to pay. It is time to pay in full degree. It is time to pay. The universe demands it. It is time to pay. They have been dealing with people with baby gloves, who were not babies, who were not innocent, who were extremely evil, being very patient in situations that didn't require any patience. It didn't even require that much. We don't block people's paths here. We don't slander God's people. We don't work on people night and day. We definitely do not curse people's crowns, blocking their connection to Spirit. We do not do that. You people got some heavy audacity in your chest. Heavy. There is no more begging, talking, patience, none of the above. None. So I remember my message tonight. Let me see how much time I have. I don't want to stay too long. My message tonight is about when it's about being spiritually called. When you're called by Spirit. I remember when I was going through a challenging time in life. I was younger. I was very young. I was a kid. Some of us go through these challenges as kids. We've been going through these challenges very early in life. So I was going through this, and I was going through this alone, and this was so difficult. I remember I got up. I used to cry all the time. I was frustrated. It was very hard. And I got up one day and I wrote on the mirror in a red lipstick, "This too shall pass." I don't even speak like that. I was like maybe 18, 17, 18. What 17, 18-year-old even speaks that way? But that's what I wrote on the mirror, "This too shall pass." And I read it every single day on the mirror, every single day. And I needed to read it. And there were some days I just stood there crying at the mirror and I was just reading it, "This too shall pass." And I remember at that time, the suffering went on so long. I was angry at God. And I became an atheist, and I would proudly tell people I do not believe in God. It hurt. Because I was going through it, I was all alone, and it's exactly like gang stalking. I lost everyone, I lost all my friends. It was an isolating situation. It was horrible. It hurt. It hurt. And I remember I would lash out whenever God was mentioned. And I used to repeat the exact same thing all the time, that there is no way that there can be a God and this kind of evil can be allowed to exist. I used to constantly say it. And I remember just basically calling out and praying during the situation, and the situation didn't improve. It actually got worse. And that fight was years. It was years long. It was a years long fight. It wasn't just 2 years. It wasn't just 3 years. It was a battle. And then there came a point where things kind of broke and the light started to kind of come in, but it came in slowly. And this is something that I want to advise people that are going through whatever you're going through. You may have moments where you feel an instant breakthrough, but it's going to take a while, because that's how it is on earth. That's our time. That's the time system that we're in. It takes a while. It takes a while. It's slow. And I had to go through every ounce of whatever it was I had to go through. I had to literally learn things on that journey. I was drained. By the end of that, I felt drained of life. I felt drained of patience. I was drained of my kindness. It affected how I viewed people. I had to find my way back to being a pleasant person again, because I was defensive. I was territorial of myself. I was hyper vigilant of people, but it taught me to watch people, watch them closely. It taught me that people can say one thing and not mean it. It's possible that they can come with a very sincere, authentic feeling aura and be demonic in their intentions. So this situation made me a woman at a young age. It matured me. It taught me grace. It taught me how to communicate effectively. It taught me self-advocacy. It taught me how to be elegant. It taught me the importance of carrying myself with class. It taught me how to be tolerant, and it taught me how to have boundaries with people. It taught me how to be someone who's gentle with firm boundaries, that I don't always have to be screaming. I don't always have to be, like there's some people, like they really talk a lot, but then their boundaries are weak. And, it really taught me that I don't have to always show up screaming. I can say it nicely, and then I can start the process of enforcing boundaries, because enforcing boundaries is not a one-time thing. Enforcing boundaries is a process you have to walk certain people through, because some people do not accept boundaries. And sometimes you have to take it to the bitter end with people to let them understand that the boundary is very firm and you mean it. It is a boundary. It shouldn't be crossed. It taught me how to read people. It taught me money management. It taught me the importance of maintaining my reputation. Now, reputation's a funny thing, because people can destroy your reputation with lies. But it taught me that the part that I can play is the interaction that people have with me. And so I can control that part of it. And it taught me the importance of caring for my family and of having a good family, and that a family is built. It's built. So while I for sure didn't deserve what I went through, I don't think it was about me deserving it. It made me who I was. And after the successful completion of my suffering, I was rewarded by God with favor that people didn't understand. Why at my age did I have these things? Why at my age was I able to accomplish certain things? Why am I like this? Why can I walk into any room and connect with people? Why can I speak to certain people? Why am I not racist? Why do I not care about race? Why do I not, so many things came out of all those years of suffering. It made me. So I was literally just reading a quote by Helen Keller the other night, and I'm going to read it again. It says, strength of character and moral integrity. Character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experiences of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, vision cleared, ambition inspired, and success achieved. Only through experiences of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, vision cleared, ambition inspired, and success achieved. It's by Helen Keller, who had a lifetime of suffering from what I can remember. I know now that God was with me in that situation, in that grief-stricken situation, watching me suffer, that it was difficult for God to watch me suffer, especially at that age. I didn't have the spiritual connection that I do now. And I know that it's by her hand that I wrote, "This too shall pass." And it's not, there's so many things I think back to now. I'm like, oh my God, that was you. Oh my God, that was you. Oh my God, that was you. Because where did I get "this too shall pass"? Just encouragement. And, they tried to put me in situations where I could get a spiritual connection, but I shied away every time. They tried to introduce me to tarot. And my best friend at that time, her family was into tarot. They were very spiritual, and I wasn't going for it. I was very nervous. I was very scared. And it would have been much easier going through that with God, having that connection. And I made it through. They made sure that I made it through. They pushed me. They encouraged me. They've always been with me. And I can tell you, whatever you're going through, you may think your spiritual connection is going to be because you can hear spirits in your head, or because you can channel, or because you can read tarot. Not necessarily. Your spiritual connection can just be the motivation that you feel bubbling in you. It could just be the day you're having a hard day, and then all of a sudden you just get up and you say, you know what, I'm back at it, let me get back to it. It could be anything. It could be changing your mind. It could be going in a different direction. Whatever it is, that is a spiritual connection, whether it comes consciously to you or not. It is the voice, it is the impulse, it is the intuitive nudge that gets you back on track, that says no. It's the voice where you're like, after you listen to it, you say to yourself, I'm crazy. What the hell would I do that for? Why did I do that? That's spirit with you. Spirit is not like what the pictures that they draw in the Bible. What we call aliens, that's spirits. It's not necessary. The universe is so vast, and there is so much out there. We cannot decide that we want to just believe what mainstream media tells us. There is a lot more to it than that. And the fact that people like me give spiritual messages and they try so hard to block the message, why would they care so much about my message if I sound like a lunatic and these are such outlandish things to say? Why is there a whole group of people that's stopping it? It takes a lot of money to do this kind of thing. Why is that worth it? Because I'm waking people up. And God forbid a whole bunch of me's start walking around here. God forbid One of me is bad enough. God forbid I start lighting a whole bunch of people. What a mess. They can't get away with anything. They can't convince you to be racist. They can't convince you to be promiscuous with yourself. You know what happened to me today in my meditation? They sent me a vision of a dildo. Of not a dildo, one of those sex toys. Now, why do you think that would be important? I'm celibate. Now, why do you think that would be important? You think they just want me to do that for no reason? No. So that they can steal energy, so that they could get in, so that they can marry in. That's why your sexual energy is sacred. It's not just because the Bible doesn't want you having sex. You got to be careful where you exchange that. Someone can have sex with you and curse your life, take your future spiritually. It is important. It's not just because people want to be prudes. Control your sexual desire. Control it. It's not that you're not going to have it. You can have it, but you got to be in control of it. You have to be able to dull it, to kill it, to terminate it whenever you need to. Like a switch. Because it's not just about embarrassing yourself. I'm telling you, they will put cords on you through sexual desire. They're looking for a way in. They want to come into your dreams. They want to come in through through you having sex with people, or you masturbating, or whatever. However they could come in. You got to control that. You have to control these ports of entry to your spiritual vessel. You are an airport. You got to put tight security on everything. And there are multiple ways to get in, and people have to start learning that. Start learning the ways that people enter your vessel. People will try to jump in your body to control you. I'm telling you. You got to be careful. My second big battle in life, did I deserve this? No, but it's not about deserving. It's not about deserving. It's because the universe has things that need to be done. And this is why they send us here. We are not from here. That is the reality. And there's nothing wrong with being from here, or nothing wrong with not being from here. But this is not our regular place. This is not where our family's from. We're given a vessel because we can handle things that other people cannot. We can handle levels of abuse that other people cannot. So when we come here, where am I? When we come here, this is what we're here for. We're not here to dilly-dally. We're not here to have the same life path that, normal human beings that cycle in and out, reincarnate, are here for. It's not personal. It's not for you. You're here to do as you're told. This is your mission. This is what you're here for. So can you imagine you get here and then you're not doing what it is that you're supposed to? This is more than just 1, 2, 3, or 4 people. It's a whole system. And so you're here to save human beings. You're here to save people that don't deserve what it is that they're going through. There are people who are victims of gang stalking. I'm talking about my situation. There are people who are victims of gang stalking. There are people who are victims of abuse, spiritual persecution, and they don't have the means by which to get out of it. They don't have the ability for God to do what God needs to do. These kind of things are entrusted to certain people, to certain souls. They're entrusted to certain spirits, certain beings to get this thing done. And we travel again in packs spiritually. So when you have your calling, you need to answer the call, because you're here to help humanity at large. The help that you're going to give and the work that you're going to do is going to help vast number of people. Did you deserve the things that you've gone through in your life? Absolutely not. But this is always how we learn. This is always how we learn. And believe it or not, through your suffering, there's good that comes out of your suffering, even though you may not see it directly. it is not possible to exit this cycle without the things that are happening. And God has said it has to play out the way it has to play out. And trust me when I tell you there is no point in fighting it. I've given up on fighting it. It is what it is. I'm at a point when I get to a new cycle or a new phase of a cycle, I say, okay, what is the agenda here? Just give me what I gotta focus on so I don't focus on anything else outside of it. These are the 2, 3, 4, 5 things I gotta focus on. Great. And I take myself out of the rest of the equation because it's gonna be rocky. It's gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be like, oh my goodness. And you have to like just maintain your patience throughout this situation because these things are years long. Years long. The point, or what God hopes and desires always in these situations, is for people to learn and to be rehabilitated and be put back into their cycles and to learn. There are some people that just will not learn. Some people feel strong to fight God because they think God is a regular spirit. And you know what? That is just how it has to play out. At the end of the cycle, you get your release papers and you get your reward because we are rewarded for this work. That's the bottom line. You have your period of peace and prosperity and whatnot, not without its challenges. It's a human life, of course, but it's what we're here for. We're here because God needs us. That's the bottom line. When I went through my situation, I had to go through healing. After the situation, there was no not healing. I had to go through healing. I had to go through my healing. And as I went through my healing, it saved me from not being able to find God when I got here. In order to find God, you have to be able to have love and compassion in your heart. And so it took me being very purposeful about healing to get to the point where I can thank God I found God during this, because walking through this alone, not possible. Making it through this successfully, not possible. I think about the beginning of this situation where we are at now, night and day. Night and day. You can go through a horrible situation, a trial for God, a tough cycle, and be bitter for years, be hateful from what you had to go through, or you can heal from it and evolve. It's not always easy when you're dealing with people, because when you deal with demonic energy and hateful energy, you have to continue to heal, pray, nurse yourself. God is constantly watching over you, warning you, keeping you safe. It is not an easy thing to go through at all. So when we come here and we have assignments on our life, we are going to be spiritually attacked. We're going to be spiritually blocked in every way. And sometimes God has to remove your blockages, and that's the bottom line. You cannot align with your blockages. God has to remove blockages. It is what it is. These blockages sometimes are not easy to release because a blockage could be family. One of my blockages was family. A blockage could be anyone, but it has to be released. We have things that we have to do. And when God's tired of warning us, because God will warn us, God will be long suffering. And when God's tired of warning us, we get to the point where there's no time. There's no time to waste on anything. Again, I'm going to repeat this. We are called because we help others. We save other people. We wake people up. We guide others to the light. We guide others to the truth of who they are. People who are being gang stalked and who are going through all the persecution that they're going through, I promise you, you are some sort of spiritual being. And even if you're not a spiritual being in the way that you think you are, we are all spiritual beings. We're a soul. You are meant to be activated and ascended. So this is an ascension journey. You're not meant to stagnate here. This is not a life sentence. You go through this, you learn the lessons. It might be one of the toughest recruitments you ever go through, one of the toughest ascensions that anyone could think of. I'm sure there are others that are worse. I'm sure we don't go through the worst that there is. But you're meant to come out of this strong. You're meant to get out of it. And don't think that no one gets out of it. People get out of it. People get out of these cycles. they get out of these cycles. The people that come and they make the comments, the fake commenters and the people who gaslight, the bulliers, all of them stuck. Gang stalkers stuck. A lot of people are just stuck. They're stuck in these cycles. They can't get out. You can't get out alone because it is spiritual warfare, whether or not you believe it. You can buy all the machines, you can take your radiation temperature, whatever you want, but you can't get out of this without God. And I'm not just talking about Christianity. Real spiritual work is what it takes to get out of this. These battles take real spiritual work. And in connecting to your spirituality is how you help yourself evolve out of the situation. Or the situation is a death trap. It comes in and it comes as a death trap. And one way or the other, it's going to close with you in it or not. So if you want to get out of it, you have to connect to the divine. You have to connect to spirit. Refusing to do so is suffering. It will continue to play out, and it just is what it is. It is what it is. So if you refuse to wake up, other people will be lost. And that's why, and it's already written that you're going to do it. It is already written. You have to fulfill the book. These are things that people are called to because only they could do it. Only you could have gotten this done. There is nobody else they could have sent to deal with that particular entity or that particular problem. So you have to take it very seriously, God's word. You have to take it very seriously, God's call. There are people here that want to block God's call and they don't care. It's for selfish reasons. And maybe they've gotten themselves where they've backed themselves into a corner so bad that now it's over their survival. Now it's not even about, somebody giving a word about God. Now it's just like other things that they're doing. And it's I've been saying for a while, like, they're being so serious. They're being serious. You don't want to push spirits at all. You don't want to push spirits of war. Okay? So all I can say is, whether you're a target, as in a targeted individual, whether you are just in a spiritual battle, you're not facing gang stalking, it's not like a 360 attack on your life, whether you are just stuck in a cycle, like I said, I feel like a lot of the people that have to come here and harass people giving these messages and whatnot, I feel like those people in particular are also stuck. And it doesn't matter what your situation is, regardless, to get out of your cycles, you need to connect to true spirituality. You do not need help from anyone. You need to go in the spirit on your own and go learn on your own and navigate it on your own. Spirits, when they're waiting for you to connect. And when you do connect, they will help you do what it is that you have to do. They will help you through it. They will tell you how to do the altar. They will tell you what they like. They will tell you how to do things. They can't wait. They can't wait. So we don't need to worry about somebody else having more spiritual knowledge or people ridiculing. Everybody starts the same. No one's born with all their spiritual knowledge. We have to wake up, and we all wake up at different times. And that is ordained by Spirit. Spirit knows why. So you have to embrace the spiritual walk. You have to do your spiritual walk. You have to get on that path. And you have to connect. It's not if you feel like it. It's to end the suffering. End the suffering. End the spiritual violence on your life. God can do all things. God does everything. And we are nobody to doubt. When you think God doesn't have a plan, the plan was set before you even came here, step by step by step. We think we don't have a plan. We're scared. We think we're running out of time. But we're on God's time. But trust me, when you exhaust spirit, you will see it in your life. You will see it in your life that it will play out. So anyway, this is my message for today. Answer the spiritual call. Everybody's spiritual call is not the same. And sometimes it's a difficult thing to walk away or to sacrifice the things that you have to sacrifice. Like during gang stalking, a lot of us sacrifice friends, families, whole social networks. have to be put aside for us to walk our spiritual path, but we don't have a choice. That's just what it is. So do yourself a favor, answer the call, and don't send spell work at people's womb and their crown and their children and their life. People don't even choose those things. This is God's plan. Be safe and be careful. Have a good night.